Hello, Angel. Could you please give an introduction about yourself?
Hey, how are you? So, I'm over here in the United States of America, and for a long time I had been working just a matrix role. It was relatively begrudging. A lot of the roles that I worked were labor intensive, very challenging. And I began to see Andrew picking up steam with his content and what have you. And so the more I watched, the more I said to myself, frankly, I see a lot of parallels in his thinking and mine. So as soon as I looked in the real world, instantly I was made aware of the fact that this is unlike any school, any university that I've ever seen before. And frankly, now ever since I've opened it up, I've been in there every day, and my profit, per time period has done nothing but go up rapidly. And I've tried a variety of business models in my life, and frankly, what I've learned in there so far has just been paramount compared to any of that.
Yep. Okay, really cool. What campuses did you end up utilizing? Which ones did you join? Which ones did you stick with?
According to the test that they give you in the very beginning to determine which one is most recommendable, I began with their suggestion, which was the ecom campus. And I learned a lot. I built out a website. I began to run some ads, and then Facebook kicked me from ads, and I learned that the degree to which you've got to build it out and then support it with other measures is a factor. And so in learning how to do that, I began to draw knowledge from some of the other campuses, such as copywriting and AI automation. And when I was in those campuses, seeing the teachings, I thought to myself, well, while I'm building out this e-commerce store, let's just see if I can put any of this into practice to see, can I make it profitable as well? And sure enough, I just followed the simple instructions, and boom, now I've got multiple income streams, campus by campus, coming in of revenue.
So to clarify, you have an e-commerce store, and then what is it? AI automation you're also doing, or even more?
So the AI automation is something that I'm doing mostly to bolster the e-commerce store. I want to
Mhm.
have a store bot there on the front so that way customers can interact with the store in real time. And then I also want to have automations to where I can support my social media content funnels with those as well to display what I've got on the store and what we're about there at the organization.
Got it. Have you implemented, let's say, a chatbot from the AI automation campus, or like anything else into the e-commerce store?
That is going to be implemented. Currently, I'm working on a set of email flows, welcome flow, cart abandon flow, browse abandon flow, so on and so forth, so that way I can really follow up with warm leads when it comes to e-commerce and build rapport with my customers, so that way they feel comfortable and they understand that this isn't just the next one-off store that may or may not give them the goods that they paid for.
Understood. Okay. And how long did it take you to earn your first sale on the e-commerce store? And was it the same product that you have now, or was it a different one?
So I took the approach of having several products. My reasoning was, if I have an entire store, it's built to have several products, and surely I can select a niche that's profitable that can house that, facilitate that. So I began building the e-commerce store. And when I say began building, I mean the business infrastructure and everything that makes sense at this time to have at least behind it based on where I'm at geographically in May of 2024. By November of 2024, I was profitable. I began making sales, and from there, I've only built it out further.
Oh. In that time, what parts were you working on? If you were to lay it out in order,
What you said? What was I working on?
what parts of the store were you working on building out from May until getting your first sale?
It was primarily paginating the website so that way I've got the right categories of products as well as the terms pages and so on and so forth, so that way it'd be easy to navigate. And then it was also selecting the products and making sure that the pictures that represented the products all coincided well and were clean and enhanced and what have you.
Got it. Okay, and then I'm wondering, how much time do you actually have per day to work on this? Do you have anything else going on?
Yes, absolutely. My life is filled to the brim with responsibilities. Every morning early, I begin at the matrix role, and then I get to knock off that in the mid afternoon when I come home. Then I hit the workout, then got to eat big. And then after I clean up and what have you, then I jump on the trenches. And I try to get a solid 2 to 4 hours of that after work each day in. And then on the weekends, obviously, there's more flexibility there depending on what the activities that I have laid out are. And so I try to maximize there as well. My goal is, in addition to what I do for the Matrix role, which is the best 45 or 50 hours of the week, I want to dedicate at least 40 in addition to that to what I'm doing in the real world, realizing that the value proposition there is so great, it deserves at the very least that.
Understood. So yeah, this is something you're doing on the side, building out. And other people might say when they come back from work, I'm too tired. I'd rather just scroll social media or sit on the couch and just relax. But yeah, in your case, you're actually putting in the work and building something. So from that, what results have you seen? How much have you earned so far in income from your e-commerce store?
So far, since I have began in the real world, totaling everything that I've earned in the variety of streams, I am nearing around the 10K mark. I'm up there in the eights and growing at a rapid rate,
Cool.
faster than ever before. And let me also be clear on one thing. You mentioned how lots of people will come home at the end of the day and they say to themselves, "Oh, I'm too tired to work." Let me assure you, I'm far more tired than they are. But instead of being tired of working, I'm tired of not seeing my daughter. I'm tired of having a broken household and no family. I'm tired of having a mortgage. I'm tired of not wearing what I want, doing what I want, going what I want, networking with these people that I see at the high levels, and not having to interact daily with people that I share nearly any type of thinking with. It's something that wears on you. The older you get, every year it becomes more weighty. And so that's what I'm tired of. And I find that any moment I spend sitting still at this time or doing something of leisure is a point of angst and something that I don't want to experience ever again. And I know that accomplishment is going to drive me out of that. It's interesting. A lot of people wish for the work to be over, but I wish for the work to be done. The work came to me when I was in a tumult, and it reached out his hand and said, "Here, take this." And as long as I hold on to the work, the torment stays at bay. So I keep working.
So from that perspective, how different was your average day before you joined the real world compared to how it is now?
The day wasn't totally maximized. I was doing a lot. I was working out at that time. I had my Matrix job. But at the same time, in the end of the day, I was in the mindset of, okay, it's 5 o'clock. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. The sun is going down. It's time for me to relax. I've done my deed for the day and I deserve to rest. And perhaps I do. But at the same time, there's too much that I need to get done for me to rest. And so it was only after realizing the nature of which it's imperative for me to get that done through what I saw in the real world that I began to get up and say to myself, listen, the years are only getting faster. So my money end's got to get faster.
Mhm. Got it. And yeah, what you said, you're a father, you have responsibilities, and you can see what reasons you have for pushing you forward and heading on the trajectory that you're going. You said combining all the stuff you're doing. So e-commerce was one of them. Were there others to speak of that has actually gotten you income?
So, in addition to e-commerce, I've combined what I've learned in the Hustlers campus and in the copywriting campus and in the business mastery campus, and I've used that to enhance a business that I had recently given birth to right around the time there when I had joined the real world. And this is a property maintenance management business. Now, you may have heard of property management companies. This is different in that we don't bog ourselves down with all the licensure and all the qualifications, all that extra red tape that's really just going to ruin you in the long run. We take a different approach and we focus primarily on the maintenance. Every real estate property, whether it's for single family use, multifamily use, da da da, it requires maintenance. And if you don't do it, little $100 expenses can turn into $1,000 expenses fast. And homeowners understand this, especially landlords. And so what we do is we basically go in similar to how a property management company would. And we say to them, listen, this is a one-stop shop. You need little stuff, little maintenance items. You need big renovations. You want it to be ready for a showing, so on and so forth. Look, all you got to worry about is paying that invoice. We'll take care of the rest. And it's certainly going to be great value added, way more than you'd get from any individual specialist. And so what I've learned in copywriting, it's certainly helped me with my outreach and conveying to clients just exactly why they need the specific things that I'm putting in front of them and so on and so forth. So between that and what I've learned in the business mastery, it's been great to see these things developing. I've learned some of these skills originally from my dad, who he worked matrix jobs his whole life, and he was relatively successful in that. But at the same time, I could see growing up how it took such a toll on him emotionally. And so it feels great to be able to take some of the things that I've learned from him outside of the matrix and grow that even faster than I ever could have had I not entered the real world.
And how did that idea come about for the real estate maintenance?
Well, frankly, I saw the need. You've got these homeowners. They might not know what they need to do. They might get caught on the back end when it's a big expense. They might get overwhelmed or ripped off by some of these people who are doing these services. So they are not going to go out of their way to experientially learn what they must do. They'll just suffer because it's in their nature to not be going above and beyond to compete with what's going on in the world. You can just tell when you talk to them, but at the same time they own property and there's wealth there. So I come in and I say, listen, you would hate for there to be a leak under your sink, just a small leak. The P trap malfunctions, and then now instead of somebody going in noticing that, tighten it up for nearly nothing, you get to replace the whole bathroom vanity for 2,500 bucks, easy, right out the gate. Little things like that. And they can add up. And when you take that into consideration with the fact that, they may have to replace a major appliance at some point, replace a roof at some point. If they have tenants in there, the tenants leave, they'll probably have to replace the carpets or put hardwood floors there instead. There's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many things that can be expensive that can absolutely take them right out. And so I prevent that from happening. I say to them, listen, you don't have to go master all that. I already have. Let me deal with the dirty work, the non-glamorous stuff, and you just collect the rent and enjoy the equity that you're getting in your property that's constantly growing.
Understood. And how are you acquiring clients for that? What through what means?
So I had some warm market, and that's where I began. And I started to work with somebody that I knew relatively well who had a portfolio of somewhere in the ballpark of about 10 properties. And so whenever I was performing and adding value and giving them that peace of mind, at some point along the line, I happened to, through them, be introduced to another lead. And so it's interesting. I definitely am looking in the direction of doing email outreach, social media outreach, referrals, and so on and so forth. But this warm market, word of mouth type of marketing, just based on your reputation, based on what you've been able to do for them, they didn't even expect it in the beginning. Sometimes you even do a little bit more than what you say, under promise and over deliver. And so they've been sharing that with other property owners and so on. So that's how I've been fostering that business endeavor here so far. And then in the other time when I'm not doing that or not doing the matrix work, then I also still try to continue and seed into the e-commerce because I realize there's value there and I built that up. And I am not opening campuses to begin what I've learned there and then jump and never touch back on it. If I open it and I start it, by God, I'm going to finish it and make it widely profitable. So juggling those two things can be a balancing act, but at the same time, it's totally doable. I'm in great health. I'm still able to work out. I'm still able to eat healthy and have all the, confections of life that one must have in addition to that. But it just takes maximizing every moment as best as you can. I mean, you may have, a bit of a doldrum here and there, what have you, but in general, if you just make the most of every moment, ask yourself, what am I doing right now? Is this something that's going to be getting me where I'm trying to be as fast as possible? Then, if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, do something. It's just that simple. So.
Yep. Okay, understood. So with everything you have going on, what plans do you have for future if you were to lay it out in the short term, medium term, and long term?
For the future, what I'm going to do is grow these income streams, and then I'm going to join the war room And then when I have network with the Tates, and at that time Donald may still be in a term. He may have somebody that he's endorsed in a term. The Tates will be the prime minister of the United Kingdom at that point. I will have built the rapport with them that I need. And then we can create the resource which can be integrated into all systems worldwide that we can own, which will probably be something in regards to what folks know as anti-gravity. If we can take that to the highest levels, then we can have that wealth where then we can begin to navigate past the rim of the Antarctic ring, and we can also take out the remaining bits of the folks on the inside who are trying to thwart the growth of humanity and all these other great grandiose things. But really the first step is getting that bag, and I really want to create wealth so that that way any room that I walk into, people can say to themselves, this guy is going to solve all problems. We don't even hardly know him, but we can just tell based on what he's accomplished and how he carries himself that he's a winner, and we have confidence in him. We don't even know his name, but he's going to help us. And if I can just do that going forward, I know that I'll be widely successful.
Okay. And then what kind of an impact has Tate had on you?
He's a great example. You know, you go through life seeing all kinds of folks who have a million excuses of why they can't do this, why they can't do that. And you look at these people, you know, it's quite the trip for me being my age. I look at these people that are twice my age, thrice my age, and I'm saying to myself, man, I really wish that they could impart wisdom to me. And perhaps at times and in a singular area they might, but in general their health sucks. In general their finances suck. In general their family's broken. In general their wife doesn't respect them if they're a man. In general if they're a woman they may be, you know, in rough health condition, and you know they're in a group of people there, they're friends that give them influence that's not helping them at all. So, you know, I see this everywhere. And then Andrew comes along and he shows us that all these things that folks say, oh, you can't do that, you can only do so much, blah blah. Andrew shows us that he can do those things. And so it's an example for us. And I look at that and I say to myself, well, what is it that Andrew has or Andrew can do that I can't do? Everybody I've ever met in my life up to this point, if I'm around them long enough, I can learn their ways and I can optimize them. And so I've said to myself, here's Andrew, you know, on the world stage. He's got money. He's got these things that everybody desires and so on. He's able to articulate that well. Surely, if I understand that well enough, if I comprehend it correctly enough, then I can optimize that as well. And as far as he's gotten, imagine if that were even further optimized, if one could conceive that, what you could achieve.
Okay, understood. And then I guess I can wrap everything up with a final question. So, since you've gotten so much value out of the real world, what advice would you have to people who are unsure about joining it because they're thinking they might get scammed for $50?
Well, if you have watched everything that Andrew and Tristan and the rest of the group have done up to this point, and you say to yourselves, I don't think that any of that builds enough rapport for me to commit $50 to be able to look into the system and see for myself whether or not it works, then you need to get a lot more money. I mean, and where are you going to do that other than the real world? So it's like, I mean, if you're worried about getting scammed, you know, you take scam calls all day, you swipe your credit card in gas stations and just about anywhere else, any restaurant you go to, you know, and the banks, there could be things on there that take your credit card. You walk down the street, there's people that got the little RFID things, they can take your information off. So it's like, you're not really worried about being scammed. I can guarantee you most people, that's not their concern. Here's what their concern is. Their concern is they're going to look in the real world and they're going to see real modern wealth creation methods that really work, taught by real winners who got real money. And they're going to say to themselves, good night. That's work. And I'm lazy. I don't want to do work. I want to relax. And so it will remind them of their shortcomings, and nobody likes that. That's why when you tell people the truth, they frown up and they get all tightened up when they should just be listening and saying to themselves, well, if I can put this into practice, maybe I won't suffer like I'm suffering right now, which is what he's calling it. So I would suggest to anybody, if you're afraid of getting scammed in the real world, ask yourself, are you really afraid of being scammed? Or are you afraid of something else? Here's what you're afraid of. And I'm guaranteeing you, my personal guarantee, that when you get in there, your fear will be met. You will find many ways to make money. You'll find every resource you could need in terms of network and support and getting your questions answered to make that money. The only thing that will prevent you from making the money is looking at your schedule, looking at your lifestyle, and deciding to yourself whether or not you want to spend the time to do it. And it's not like it takes forever. You know, you live in a world, you don't turn your nose up at, oh, well, 4 year degree, oh, I might do that. 2 year degree, I might do that. Oh, so and so says to go to school. Oh, so and so says maybe if I go get a certification, or maybe if I work this skill for 5 7 years, I can get this this validation in society and then get paid more. You might look at those opportunities, but here's an opportunity. It takes much less time, but you'll need to be creative, you'll need to be dedicated. But what are you going to do other than that, where you're not going to need to be dedicated, you're not going to need to be creative, and you can make just as much, if not more money in that amount of time? If you know an opportunity that fits that criteria, please let me know. But I'm here to tell you, there's not one. I've looked. So
Mhm.
have
Yeah,
fun.
very well said. Nice. So now, for people who want to find out more about you or contact you, what can they do so?
They can find my email address on my website, alltext.com. We got the devices on there that if you have, your life will be easier. Your health will be positioned in such a manner where if you're taking the right actions, you're going to move in the direction where you want to move. These are things that I want to do. So I would imagine anybody that's in their senses would want to do the same. And there you'll be able to find my email address. Feel free to reach out. Can't guarantee that you're going to get an answer that you like, but you will get an answer that's absolutely real. And it makes total sense considering that I myself am a very thankful, very grateful student of the real world.